The vast emptiness of space stretched out like an endless black canvas, silent and cold. A small escape pod drifted aimlessly, its navigation systems damaged, and its lone occupant, a young girl named Unji, sleeping peacefully inside. Her tiny frame was curled up against the worn interior, surrounded by flickering emergency lights and the soft hum of failing life support systems. The Vora Collective's research vessel detected the pod during a routine sector scan. Their massive crystalline ship, constructed from technologies beyond human comprehension, slowly maneuvered closer. Sensors probed the tiny vessel, scanning its contents with clinical precision. Inside the monitoring chamber, 3 Vora researchers studied the holographic display. The lead researcher, a being with translucent skin and multiple segmented eyes, tilted its head in curiosity. The human child appeared approximately 6 Earth years old, wearing a faded blue jumpsuit with torn edges. Her dark hair was matted, her face peaceful despite the surrounding chaos. "Interesting specimen," muttered Koral, the senior xenobiologist. His appendages moved across complex data streams, analyzing every microscopic detail of the child's biological composition. Humans were considered a relatively young species, emotional, unpredictable, and often deemed inferior by galactic standards. The Vora had a particular research protocol for encountering isolated human survivors. This child represented a perfect opportunity for their most controversial experiment. They had long studied the Krelvor, a predatory species known for consuming intelligent life forms with ruthless efficiency. The Krelvor were considered uncontrollable, existing as living weapons of pure destruction. What would happen if they introduced a human child into the Krelvor containment zone? After extensive discussions and bureaucratic approvals, the decision was made. Unji would become their experimental subject. Carefully, mechanical arms extracted the sleeping child from her escape pod. She didn't wake during the transfer, her breathing steady and calm. Medical scanners confirmed she was healthy, with no immediate signs of trauma from her apparent abandonment in deep space. The Vora researchers prepared her with minimal medical interventions. They dressed her in a simple gray jumpsuit designed for their research environment, monitored her vital signs, and conducted preliminary genetic assessments. Her DNA showed remarkable adaptability, a trait they found both fascinating and potentially dangerous. In the sterile preparation chamber, Unji finally stirred. Her eyes opened, revealing a surprising clarity and calm that seemed incongruent with her young age. She looked around the alien environment without fear, her gaze moving methodically across the strange technological landscape. "Where am I?" she asked in perfect standard galactic language, her voice soft but steady. Koral was momentarily taken aback. Most human children would be screaming, crying, or displaying extreme emotional distress. This child seemed different. "You are part of an important research experiment," Koral responded, his translator rendering his complex language into simple human speech patterns. Unji nodded, as if being part of an alien research experiment was the most natural thing in the world. Her hands smoothed out her jumpsuit, and she sat up straight, waiting. The Krelvor containment zone was prepared, a massive reinforced chamber designed to hold the most dangerous predatory species in the known galaxy. Its walls were constructed from quantum-locked materials, capable of withstanding tremendous destructive forces. As the preparation team moved Unji towards the massive sealed entrance, she remained calm. No tears, no protests, no visible signs of fear, just a quiet, observant stillness that would later become her most powerful weapon. The massive doors began to open. Behind them waited a creature of nightmares, the Krelvor, a being that had consumed entire civilizations, that moved with a speed and brutality that defied conventional understanding. No one, not the Vora researchers, not the support staff, not the advanced monitoring systems, could have predicted what would happen next. Unji took her first step into the containment zone, her small hand slightly clenched, her dark eyes scanning the environment with an intelligence that seemed to transcend her years. The containment zone was a world of shadows and metallic surfaces. designed to be a perfect hunting ground for the most terrifying predator in the known galaxy. As Yunji stepped forward, the massive doors sealed behind her with a sound that echoed like distant thunder. At first, nothing moved. The air felt thick and heavy, charged with an electric tension that made the small hairs on Yunji's arms stand up. She could hear something breathing, not the steady rhythm of human lungs, but a wet, ragged sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The Krell was watching her. Hidden cameras captured every moment. In the observation room, Coral and his team leaned forward, their multiple eyes fixed on the holographic display. Most subjects would have collapsed in terror by now. Most would be screaming, crying, desperately searching for escape. Yunji stood perfectly still. Her eyes moved slowly, methodically. She wasn't looking around in panic, but studying the environment like a scientist examining a complex puzzle. The first hint of movement came from the far corner, a slight shimmer in the darkness like heat rising from hot pavement. The Krell was massive. Its body defied simple description, a nightmare of shifting biomechanical parts that could reconfigure in milliseconds. Razor-sharp appendages could slice through reinforced metal. Its skin changed color and texture, blending perfectly with the surrounding environment. When it moved, it was faster than anything human eyes could track. But Yunji was different. Her eyes followed the movement, her body remaining calm and centered. The creature's first approach was meant to terrorize. It moved with a speed that should have triggered pure survival instinct, a blur of razor-sharp edges and biological weaponry designed to inspire instant fear. Most living beings would have broken mentally before the first attack even landed. Yunji took a single step to the side. The Vora researchers were stunned. Their monitoring systems showed the child's heart rate was remarkably steady. Her brain activity was focused, analytical, completely unlike any previous subject's response. The Krell paused. Something was different. Its prey wasn't responding as expected. No fear, no panic, just observation. Yunji spoke. Her voice was soft but clear. "I'm not here to fight you," she said, using a tone that suggested conversation rather than confrontation. The creature tilted its massive form. Sensors in the observation room went crazy, tracking hundreds of micro-movements that suggested confusion, curiosity, something beyond pure predatory instinct. Most fascinating was what happened next. Instead of attacking, the Krell began to circle, not hunting, not threatening, studying. Coral's appendages moved rapidly across his control panel. "Unprecedented," he muttered. "Absolute deviation from expected behavioral patterns." Yunji remained calm. She noticed how the creature's movements changed based on her smallest actions. When she shifted her weight, it would adjust. When she breathed, it would pause. Hours passed. The Vora researchers watched in growing fascination. This was no longer just an experiment. Something extraordinary was happening. The Krell, a creature that had consumed entire civilizations, that was considered the perfect biological weapon. It was being analyzed by a 6-year-old human child. As darkness fell in the containment zone, Yunji sat down, not in fear, not in submission, but as if preparing for a long conversation with something most would consider a monster. The Krell settled nearby, not attacking, not threatening, watching. Something had changed, and nobody, not the Vora, not the researchers, not the most advanced monitoring systems in the galaxy, could explain exactly what. The experiment was no longer following any predicted path. Days blended together in the containment zone. Yunji and the Krell existed in a strange dance of observation and communication that defied everything the Vora researchers understood about predator-prey interactions. She discovered the creature, responded to patterns. Not just physical movements, but emotional states. When she felt calm, it became less aggressive. When she showed mild curiosity, it would demonstrate complex behavioral responses that seemed almost like communication. The Vora monitoring team watched in growing disbelief. Coral, the lead researcher, had stopped blinking for hours. His multiple eyes tracked every microscopic interaction between the child and the monster. Yunji began using a system of hand signals. Nothing complex, just simple gestures. Open palm meant peaceful intention. Closed fist suggested caution. Fingers spread wide indicated openness. Surprisingly, the Krelvor started mimicking her gestures. "Impossible," muttered one researcher. But the holographic displays showed exactly what was happening. A 6-year-old human was teaching complex communication to a creature considered untrainable. The containment zone's environment became their shared language. Yunji would touch surfaces, and the Krelvor would investigate the same spot. She would sit in a specific pattern, and it would mirror her positioning. What began as an experiment was transforming into something nobody could predict. The creature's biological structure started changing. Sensors detected subtle molecular shifts that suggested adaptive learning. Its razor-sharp appendages, once designed purely for destruction, now moved with a newfound precision that resembled communication. Coral adjusted his translation devices. The interaction wasn't verbal. It was something deeper. A language of movement, intention, and subtle emotional signals. Yunji showed no fear. Where most would see a monster, she saw a complex being struggling to understand its own existence. Her approach was neither aggressive nor submissive. She maintained a perfect balance of respectful distance and gentle curiosity. The Vora researchers realized they were witnessing something unprecedented. A human child was essentially reprogramming a biological weapon through pure psychological interaction. Hours turned into days. The Krelvor's aggressive responses diminished. Its hunting algorithms, once focused on pure destruction, now seemed confused. It was learning, adapting, changing. Yunji's most powerful weapon wasn't strength. It was understanding. She would spend hours sitting quietly, occasionally making soft sounds. The Krelvor would listen, its massive body becoming completely still. Sometimes it would make responding sounds, not words but complex vibrations that seemed to carry emotional content. The containment zone sensors recorded everything, but no computer could truly understand what was happening. This was beyond data, beyond science. This was connection. Coral noticed something extraordinary. The Krelvor's biological markers were shifting. Its neural pathways were restructuring. Not through force or technological intervention, but through something far more complex, emotional communication. Yunji wasn't just surviving. She was transforming. As another cycle passed, the researchers watched in growing excitement. The monster that had consumed entire civilizations was now sitting peacefully beside a small human child, seemingly more interested in understanding her than destroying her. The experiment had become something else entirely. A breakthrough was happening, not just in the containment zone, but in understanding the fundamental nature of intelligence, communication, and connection. And it all started with a 6-year-old girl who refused to see a monster. Something fundamental was changing inside the containment zone. The Krelvor, once a creature of pure destruction, was transforming in ways no scientist could have predicted. Yunji's daily interactions created subtle shifts. She would draw simple patterns on the metal floor using her fingers. The Krelvor would carefully trace these patterns, its massive body moving with unexpected gentleness. Complex predatory algorithms were breaking down, replaced by something closer to curiosity. The Vora researchers watched in growing amazement. Their most advanced tracking systems struggled to interpret what was happening. This wasn't just behavioral modification. This was a complete psychological reconstruction. During one observation cycle, Yunji discovered the Krelvor responded strongly to emotional nuance. A slight change in her breathing pattern would cause it to pause. A soft humming sound would make its razor-sharp appendages curl inward, becoming almost protective. Coral, the lead researcher, noticed something extraordinary. The creature's biological structure was literally changing. Neural pathways that once supported pure aggression were developing new connections. Its molecular structure showed signs of adaptive learning that defied current scientific understanding. Tapai, Child's approach was remarkable. She never treated the Krelvor as a monster. Instead, she approached it like a complex puzzle waiting to be understood. When it made threatening movements, she would remain calm. When it showed signs of confusion, she would sit quietly, offering a sense of stability. Communication happened through the most unexpected methods. Sometimes it was a hand gesture, sometimes a specific breathing rhythm, sometimes just the way. She positioned her body in the containment zone. Days turned into weeks. The Krelvor's hunting algorithms began to malfunction. Where once it would have attacked without hesitation, now it would pause. It would study. It would wait. Most fascinating was how the creature began protecting Yunji. When simulation tests introduced potential threats, the Krelvor would position itself between the child and any perceived danger. Its massive body, once a weapon of pure destruction, now acted as a shield. The transformation wasn't just external. Something deep was happening, a fundamental reimagining of what intelligence could mean. Corral's team worked around the clock. They ran countless simulations, trying to understand the mechanism behind this extraordinary change, but no computer model could capture the subtle dance happening between the child and the creature. Yunji seemed to understand the Krelvor on a level that transcended language. She would make soft sounds, and it would respond. She would move, her hand in a specific pattern, and its entire body would adjust. The containment zone was no longer a place of potential destruction. It had become a laboratory of unexpected connection. Biological markers showed something unprecedented. The Krelvor's aggressive neural pathways were being systematically replaced, not through force or technological intervention, but through something far more complex: emotional understanding. One particular moment captured everything. During a routine monitoring cycle, Yunji fell asleep. Instead of seeing this as an opportunity to attack, the Krelvor carefully adjusted its body, creating a protective circle around her. Its razor-sharp appendages, once designed for pure destruction, now moved with incredible gentleness. The Vora researchers were witnessing something that challenged everything they knew about intelligence, communication, and the nature of consciousness. 6-year-old human child was fundamentally reprogramming a creature considered the most dangerous predator in the known galaxy, not through weapons, not through technology, but through pure, unfiltered understanding. As another cycle passed, the impossible was becoming real. The monster was transforming. And at the center of this transformation was a child who saw beyond the surface, who understood that connection was the most powerful force in the universe. The experiment was no longer about observation. It had become a testament to the extraordinary potential of understanding. The news spread quickly through galactic communication networks. What had started as a simple research experiment had become something far more significant. Yunji's interaction with the Krelvor challenged everything known about intelligent communication. The Vora Collective found themselves at the center of a discovery that would rewrite scientific understanding across multiple civilizations. Corral presented his findings to the Galactic Research Council. Holographic displays showed the transformation. A 6-year-old human child had done what entire military systems had failed to do for centuries. She had transformed a creature of pure destruction into something approaching symbiotic intelligence. The Krelvor, once feared across thousands of star systems, now moved with a calculated gentleness that shocked experienced observers. Its massive body, previously a weapon of unimaginable destruction, now functioned like a protective mechanism around Yunji. Representatives from different alien civilizations watched the recorded interactions with growing disbelief. The child showed no special training, no advanced technology, just a fundamental ability to communicate beyond traditional understanding. During one critical observation, the Krelvor demonstrated something unprecedented. When a simulated threat was introduced into the containment zone, it didn't attack. Instead, it created a protective barrier around Yunji, using its own body as a shield. Impossible, muttered senior researchers, but the evidence was clear. The Vora Collective's reputation changed overnight. What was meant to be a simple research experiment had become a fundamental revolution in understanding intelligence, communication, and potential. Yunji remained unaware of the galactic implications. To her, this was simply how one might interact with a complex being. Her approach was neither scientific nor calculated. It was purely intuitive. Alien civilizations began requesting detailed research. How had a single human child accomplished what entire scientific teams had failed to do? The Krelvor's neural pathways had been completely restructured, its aggressive algorithms replaced with something closer to emotional intelligence. Corral's team discovered something even more remarkable. The transformation wasn't just external. The Krelvor's entire biological structure was changing at a molecular level. Its ability to learn and adapt had increased exponentially. Communication networks buzzed with speculation. Some saw it as a breakthrough in interspecies understanding. Others viewed it as a potential threat. What if humans possessed capabilities far beyond current understanding? The Galactic Research Council demanded more information. They wanted to understand the mechanism behind this extraordinary transformation. But no traditional scientific approach could explain what had happened. Yunji continued her simple interactions. She would draw patterns, make soft sounds, move in specific ways that seemed to communicate complex emotional states. The Krelvor would respond with increasing complexity. Most fascinating was how the creature had begun to show signs of what could only be described as empathy. It would adjust its movements based on Yunji's emotional state. When she seemed tired, it would become completely still. When she showed curiosity, it would demonstrate increasingly complex behavioral patterns. The containment zone was no longer a research facility. It had become a living laboratory of unexpected connection. Representatives from multiple alien civilizations requested meetings. They wanted to understand how a child could accomplish what entire military systems had failed to do for centuries. Corral's final report was simple, but profound. Humanity possessed a unique ability to communicate and transform beyond traditional scientific understanding. The Krelvor was living proof of this extraordinary potential. As the research findings spread, something fundamental was changing. The perception of humanity shifted from a young, potentially dangerous species to something far more complex and extraordinary. One small child had done what entire civilizations had failed to do. She had transformed a monster, not through force, but through pure, unfiltered understanding.